Good morning. So for today's lecture and assignment, I asked you to do a little research and try to find some piece of war-related pop culture, or more specifically, a piece of pop culture related to the Vietnam War. And your example can also be beyond just pop culture. It could be, for example, a famous photograph, as published photographs were really important at the time of the Vietnam War, as far as expressing what was going on there and some of the sentiment of soldiers and citizens as far as how they felt about the war. So it can literally be anything, anything from a famous published photograph to a piece of art or something more pop culture related. I just thought, it being Friday, we could maybe connect with the book on a more personal level and research something that's important to us. So I already mentioned for today I had a song in mind, and just because I'm sharing songs doesn't mean you have to try to find a song either. It's just, again, music is something I'm very passionate about and I love sharing with everyone, including my students. So I chose today a song completely different, excuse me, from the last song I shared, Marvin Gaye's What's Going On. For today, I chose a hip hop song that I first came across in college. And I'm a huge fan of hip hop. Hip hop is my favorite genre of music right now. And I especially love 90s and early 2000s hip hop, which a lot of us hip hop nerds and geeks consider to be the golden age of hip hop. So for today, I have a song from the early 2000s by a group called Jedi Mind Tricks featuring a rapper named R.A. the Rugged Man. And I'm sure many of you don't know what the hell I'm talking about right now, but just a little context. Jedi Mind Tricks was a very famous rap group during the 2000s. And R.A. the Rugged Man is considered to be one of the best rappers of all time, more on an underground level, even though he's not necessarily an underground rapper. It's just many people, for whatever reason, don't know about this rapper. And he's considered by many purists to be one of the greatest lyricists of all time. And this song is no exception. So I'm not going to play the song today because my audio sucks. So I don't think you'll really get to appreciate the rapping on the song. But feel free if you're a hip hop fan, even if you aren't a hip hop fan. This song is incredible because it tells the true story of R.A. the Rugged Man's, I know that sounds funny, of R.A. the Rugged Man's father. It's the true story of his father, his experience in Vietnam, and how it affected his family and RA's siblings thereafter. It's just a truly incredible, heartbreaking story that's just delivered in such an incredible way, technically speaking, as far as rap is concerned. So I just want to show you some of the lyrics of this song. Okay. And this is the website Genius, which used to be called Rap Genius. And what Genius is it's just a database full of music. And even now they do movies and books, I believe. But it's a database mostly of songs. And I mean, you can find almost any song on this website. I don't know about outside of hip hop, but I believe just songs, period, they annotate. And so a lot of times I listen to rap songs and I hear them make references to things that maybe I don't understand or I'm curious about. And so I'm usually able to find out what those references are through the annotations on this Genius page. And this is a very credible site as far as explaining what lyrics mean, because oftentimes they even get the artists themselves to verify the annotations explaining some of the lyrics. And as you can see here, we have verified commentary by R.A. the Rugged Man. So he's actually verified the annotations that go with the lyrics to these songs, meaning that the annotations are credible and explain pretty well and in detail what this song is about and what certain references in the song are about. So if we scroll down and look at the lyrics, you'll see they just kind of have an overview of the song here, in which they write, Jedi Mind Trick's astonishing ode to one of the most horrific episodes in American and Vietnamese history, the Vietnam War of the 1950s and 60s, benefits from the fiery authenticity of R.A. the Rugged Man's mile-a-minute verse based on the true story of his father, John A. Thorburn, From the second RA, the rugged man, picks up the mic, we experience a blistering auditory assault unparalleled in hip hop. Damn, that sounds awesome. That's some good writing there in that annotation. Anyway, um, back to what I was saying earlier, you get that overview right there. Just an incredible uh, display of lyrical ability, rapping ability, but then more than anything, just the story that he tells of his father is incredible. So to not hype this song up too much, let's just look at some of the lyrics. Um, we'll skip the first verse by Vinny Paz of the Jedi Mind Tricks, which is incredible too. But again, my focus here is RA the Rugged Man's verse. And he starts his verse, true story, which as a listener, when I heard this for the first time, I always wondered if it was a true story. And so in researching this song from the annotations, we find out that it in fact is a true story. So he begins his verse, call me Thorburn John A. Staff Sergeant, marksman skilled in killing, ill and I'm able and willing, kill a village elephant, raping and pillage a village, illegitimate killers, US military guerrillas. And I don't want to do a disservice to that verse by reading the entirety, but you can just kind of get um, the incredible lyrical ability and vocabulary of the rapper here. And this song just sounds amazing. So if we click on one of the lyrics, we get the annotations that I was referring to earlier. For example, this first line, we see they give an explanation. R.A., the rugged man's dad, Staff Sergeant John Andrew Thorburn, was an American war veteran who served in the United States Army and the United States Air Force during the Vietnam War. So just an example of the annotations they do with the lyrics. And so his whole verse is just describing in vivid detail his father's experience, all of the horrors that he experienced. And again, a lot of these details we can connect to the things they carried and some of the things that Tim O'Brien wrote about in the very first chapter. And for example, this verse, this ain't no real war, Vietnam shit, World War II, that's a war. This is just a military conflict, which goes back to the public opinion about the Vietnam War, which it was a very controversial war, and many citizens, famous to regular people, were protesting against this war and were very much against it. And Tim O'Brien, who wrote The Things They Carried, we find out in his video lecture that he also was against the Vietnam War. And in fact, the next chapter of the book we're going to read, we're going to find out how he more or less felt when he received his draft letter, which is he had a very hard time committing to going to the Vietnam War and enlisting. Okay. So again, some details, drug abusing, sex, gambling, and boozing, all this shit is amusing. Again, many of you wrote in your answers, going back to the first quiz, how one way that soldiers dealt with death and the horror that surrounded them was through humor, making humorous remarks even about the way soldiers died, zapped while zipping, if you remember that part. Humor, adding humor to the situation was a way of coping and dealing with it and keeping yourself sane, so to speak, from keeping yourself from emotionally breaking down. I think, humor is one way definitely that as human beings, we deal with pain sometimes or suffering. It's a way to cope with it. So again, he goes on to describe his father's experience. And the real highlight of the song is the ending, which is truly heartbreaking. And I always remember this ending because I love endings, in writing and movies and literature and songs that tell stories. And at the end, R.A. raps, speaking as his father. I must have died. Then I woke up surprised I'm alive. I'm in a hospital bed. They rescued me. I survived. I escaped the war, came back, but ain't escaped Agent Orange. Two of my kids born handicapped, spastic, quadriplegia, microcephaly, cerebral palsy, cortical blindness, name it, they had it. My son died. He ain't lived, but I still try to think positive because in life, God take, God give. Powerful. And then when we look at the annotation here, we find out the chemicals from Vietnam affected his kids, going back to Agent Orange, which was chemical warfare used during the war that soldiers were exposed to. once they were born, and two of RA's siblings were deformed. His sister Dee Dee was born mentally retarded. I guess we don't use that word anymore, right? But so was his brother Max, who was also blind. Max eventually died at the age of 10 while his sister was still alive when this song was released. However, Dee Dee died in 2007 from a heart attack at the age of 26. Wow, truly heartbreaking story. And it just makes me think of something that we're going to get from Tim O'Brien's virtual presentation, his virtual talk. Is a quote from him is that a war never really ends. Or I might be misquoting him, but he's basically at some point says that a war never really ends for the individuals that experience it. And that even includes their families that they go back home to, is the war never ends for them either. And in the case of R.A. the Rugged Man and his father, that includes his father even passing on these chemicals to his children who eventually died from it, which is just incredibly, again, heartbreaking, tragic story, and just wrapped so beautifully and incredibly by R.A. the Rugged Man. This song, I think, is just one of the best rap songs, in my opinion, ever. In the way it's written and the way it's rapped is just incredible. So if you're a fan of hip hop, find this song on your own through YouTube or through this Genius page, and you'll see what I'm talking about. If you're a fan of rap music, if you're a fan of hip hop, this is a song that is definitely worth listening to. So, our response for today, your response for today is you can write it a number of ways, and I'm going to give you an example here. But what I would like you to show in your response is that you just did some research on whatever your example was. Again, your example could be pop culture, it could be art, but it could also be things that are anything related to war, including published photographs, pieces of literature, articles, even, etc. I just really like you to write about something that you feel like you have a personal connection to or speaks to you. So, as far as how you can write your response, I did the assignment too. So, we'll say it needs to be just a full page, roughly a full page. And then, more or less, what you can do is just reflect a bit of research you did about this example and maybe make some type of personal connection in your writing, explain what it means to you, what you think it means, what messages this example is conveying, etc. And so I just wrote one of my all-time favorite rap songs that just so happens to be about the Vietnam War is Uncommon Valor, a song off the Jedi Mind Tricks album Servants in Heaven, Kings in Hell. Wow, that's quite a title, right? This song features one of the greatest cameos in hip hop history by R.A. the Rugged Man. In his verse, R.A. raps about a true account of his father's experience in the Vietnam War and the effect it had on him and his family thereafter. I remember when I first heard this song in college, I was immediately blown away by the rapid fire, intricate delivery of his verse. Technically speaking, his rapping on this song is incredible. But it wasn't until I paid attention to the lyrics of the song that I realized the power of his words. Before beginning his verse, R.A. says, true story. And so I always wondered if it was indeed a true account. After researching the song on the Genius website, which is a database for annotating songs, movies, and books, I discovered that it is in fact a true story. R.A. begins his verse, etc., etc. I don't need to read the whole thing, just trying to give you an example, um, and then I go on from there to explain what this song is about, what it expresses as far as war is concerned, in particular, the Vietnam War. And so that's an example more or less of what I'm looking from your response. Okay. Is just reflect the bit of research that you did in your writing, make references if you need to, and then feel free to make a personal connection to whatever you write about. And again, that's something I want to give you the opportunity to do in these assignments when it allows for it, is to write a bit more creatively, write a bit about your own personal connections to some of the aspects or themes of this book that we come across, and in other ways, not just within the writing of the book. Okay, so there's your assignment for today. Again, feel free to email me if you have any questions about your example or you're not sure if it works or your response. I'll be available through the early afternoon today. So if you do have a question as far as your response is concerned, try to contact me early this afternoon. And then your assignment, your writing needs to be in your journal by the end of the day today, Friday, by 11:59 p.m. Okay. I'll leave it at that. Hope you're enjoying the book so far. Again, hope you find something to take away from it at least, and have a great weekend.